My dad used to be business partners with his friend, Edward, from college. They were doing very well from what my mom told me, but when I was around 3, my dad and Edward had a fight, which ultimately led to them going their separate ways. My dad's new company didn't do well, whereas Edward's thrived. My dad is incredibly bitter over this, and whenever he gets drunk, he goes on long rants about how he was sabotaged by Edward. When I was 18, Edward had a health scare and reached out to my dad to ask for forgiveness. They seem to have mended their friendship, and my dad even worked for him until a year ago. Edward has a son, my now husband, who I started dating when I was 24. About 6 months into our relationship, I found out I was pregnant. My husband wasn't happy and told me I had to get rid of the baby because he wasn't ready to be a dad. I was devastated and ended up telling my parents about the pregnancy, and my dad insisted I don't make a rash decision just because it was what my husband wanted. After 2 weeks of completely ghosting me, my husband came to my apartment to apologize and say he wanted to keep the baby. I was a confused, emotional mess at the time, so when he started insisting we get married, it didn't take him much to convince me to go along with it. I ended up having a miscarriage, and my husband was incredibly cold and distant after it happened. He ended up getting a transfer to their office in the States a few months after we got married, but insisted it was a temporary move, so there was no point in both of us relocating. It wasn't, and we've been apart most of our marriage. Last November, I told my older sister that I was planning to divorce him because we barely had a marriage, and I didn't want to waste my life with someone who clearly didn't want to be with me. She encouraged me to go through with it, but told me not to mention it to either of our families until I had already filed. I thought this was strange since we're both close to our parents, but I trust my sister's judgment, so I never mentioned it to anyone. In January, my husband ended up moving back home. The move was supposed to be temporary, but pandemic meant he ended up staying here longer than expected. My husband was very different when he moved back. He started acting like the guy I used to date, and I couldn't bring myself to ask him for a divorce in the end. Our relationship has improved a lot, and I haven't thought about divorce since. I found out I was pregnant yesterday. I took the test whilst I was at my sister's house, and as soon as she saw it was positive. She told me to get rid of the baby without telling my husband. I was confused, and I kept demanding to know why she would say something like that. She ended up telling me my husband only wanted to get married because our dad blackmailed him when he tried to make me get rid of the baby the first time around. Apparently, my dad has proof that Edward commits tax fraud and threatened to expose him if my husband didn't say he changed his mind about the baby and do the right thing. I don't really know what to do now. My sister is pushing me to get rid of the baby and divorce. She's probably right, but I just feel numb and I could use some outside advice. What do I do now? This sounds like an all-around toxic situation. I'd sit down and honestly discuss it with your husband and leave out everyone else. I'd tell him that you know about the blackmail and ask him if he honestly wants to be with you. If he doesn't, take your baby and divorce him. If he does want to be with you, y'all need to sit down and cut out all the dads, it sounds like. Yours and his. I have been with my fiancé, 33 male, for several years now, and our relationship is brilliant. We have a small child also. I am originally from abroad, so I have no family where we live, other than my future in-laws and of course friends I have acquired over my time living here, approximately 5 years. My mother-in-law has taken me and my son from another relationship, father not in the scene, on board more than I could ever have asked for. She does everything for my son and treats him as her own. You couldn't ask for a better grandparent. I will make a side note here and say she does not drink when he is in her care. At least, that is what I am told. And when I pick him up, she seems entirely straight. She works full-time and we tend to be a successful bunch of people, so I have never had a concern. Until now. My fiancé is an only child, and his mother is seriously dependent on him. She mummies him terribly. However, he is the opposite of a mummy's boy. He is incredibly successful and has no qualms with telling her she is being ridiculous, overbearing. So it's never ever been a problem. We see her once a fortnight, and we enjoy the time. For the last 2 years, I have felt I need to try to fit in and get her approval. So when she said some things that I disagree with, I have just kept quiet. Over the last few months, it has become frustrating, and I have been upset on many occasions due to her insulting something that is relative to me. E.g., people who live in anything other than a house are not successful. My parents live on houseboats and are incredibly happy and successful. We want another child, but she has subtly told me that wouldn't it be ridiculous to have another child, as we could not then afford to spoil them as we do your little one. Hello, I don't want the kiddo spoiled anyway, matey. Everything she says, it's as though she is convincing me to think it's my idea. It's genuinely manipulation, but I am unsure whether it's intentional. The main event. This weekend, she paid for us to go away for the entire weekend as a joint birthday present for my fiancé and I. It was lovely. We spent the first 3 days in glorious sun, enjoying excellent hotels, beautiful food, and fantastic company. The final night, everyone massively overdid it on the booze. I stuck to my 2 glasses of wine through the day because I was away from home and not comfortable drinking anymore, with it being a bit risky with kiddo. No problem. Mother-in-law drank a huge amount. Come 8 p.m., she started blatantly disrespecting me. I have tattoos, albeit subtle ones, on my upper arm and back. But she started saying how disgusting it was and how her son was a saint and would never do anything like that. 6 months of being pent up, being respectful and keeping it in, and I lost it. I told her that your son is very capable of thinking for himself and, funnily enough, asked for my tattoo artist last month to book in for a piece. From there, it's a blur. All of a sudden, I felt a huge amount of pain and was pushed into the side of the couch and onto the floor. She punched me square in the shoulder. From here, I ran upstairs and attempted to get away. My fiancé and my mother-in-law's partner had to physically hold her back as she was screaming everything under the sun. I was called a skank, an S, a hoe, words I had never heard her even say. We left with our son and booked into a much better hotel and enjoyed a short amount of sleep before going home. Forward to today. She messaged me the next morning and said, "I am so sorry from the bottom of my heart and I need to fix this." I ignored her for 4 days, just due to the fact that I genuinely have no idea what to say. I feel shocked. I don't do drama. I do not do hurting people. I feel disrespected. She then emailed me this today. I left it until now to contact you, as Steve thought it was best, as you asked me to leave it a while in your WhatsApp message. Where do I start? We had such a lovely, lovely holiday until I spoiled it on the last night. After drinking wine and then drinking 22% Malibu, I seem to have totally lost the plot and have no memory of the latter part of the night whatsoever. The last thing I remember was talking about tattoos and Michael saying he might get one sometime, and me being very cross, and you saying, "Laura, I think Michael is old enough to make his own mind up," and Steve says it's like the red mist came over me. I seriously don't remember all the horrible things Steve told me I said, and even where they came from. I have lovely friends at work who have tattoos, so can only presume I was overwhelmed at the thought of Michael having one when he has never said he would before. Also, it is totally none of my business. It was the drink talking. You know I think the world of you and Noah, and know how good you are for Michael, so please, tell me I haven't spoilt our relationship, and that we can somehow get back from this. I am so sorry from the bottom of my heart for being a total prat that evening, and I am upset and embarrassed, and rightly so. I deserve to be. All my love, Sarah. Also turns out she's forgotten she hit me. I don't know what to do. I love this woman, and she is my only family here. I want to forgive her, but I don't know how to do so without making me seem like she can get away with this. Please, please, any help would be appreciated. Tell her that you are in shock and you need time to process what happened. It is the truth, and it will also show her your true colors. If she continues to push and demands you forgive her now, and can't we put this behind us, then you know the apology isn't about mending your relationship. It's about her feelings. If your mother-in-law actually does back off and give you space, which I doubt based on your description of her other behavior, then it is possible that she is sincere. Sincerity does not negate what she did, and she still needs to own up to assaulting you and make a full, true apology. I've been with my husband for 8 years now and married for 5. He's the sweetest, most loving guy I know. One thing about him, though, is that he is vehemently against cheating. He was never cheated on, but his dad cheated on his mom several times, so he's seen what it does to the betrayed partner. I was cheated on myself in my first 2 relationships, so I can relate and would never even think about cheating, but his hatred is on a different level. To this day, he won't speak to his father, and I don't think he ever will. He's not insecure despite this, though, and always says that he trusts me. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, my best friend since 4th grade came to our house crying. Apparently, her husband caught her sleeping with a coworker of hers and told both their families. He threw out all of her stuff. She said it was a mistake on her part, and I think she might be genuinely remorseful. Coworker was also married and was kicked out himself. Her parents, who love her husband, are not speaking to her, and most of our friends aren't either. She essentially has nowhere to go. I had no idea she was capable of this, but I felt so bad I asked my husband if she could stay. He was angry about what happened and threatened to kick her out too, but I asked him for just a couple of weeks so she can at least be safe. He asked me if I knew about the affair, and I said I definitely don't. He then told me that she would be dead to him the entire time and that he doesn't want her anywhere near him. She tries to interact with my husband. She cleans the house, cooks, etc., and has been a great help. She still cries about it every night though, and my husband just pretends she's not there. My husband has even been cold to me lately. Every time I try to initiate he just says he's not in the mood and goes to sleep. He still takes me out on dates, and when he's out of the house, it's like he's back to his old loving self again. Now I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I want my husband back more than anything, but I also feel guilty if I kick my friend out. I'm still mad at her for what she did, but I can see she's somewhat remorseful. She has nowhere to go right now. No family, no home, no friends, no job, no money. It's just a crap show for her. I know she made her bed, but I still feel bad thinking about the idea of her on a park bench somewhere or having to sleep with strangers just for a bed. Should I just kick her out for my husband? He hasn't said anything. I don't get how it is a difficult situation to choose between your husband and an adult woman that can take care of her damn self. She can find a place to stay. There are shelters, there are hotels, there are services for people who need help. If your marriage suffers, part of the blame rests on you. Point her to the help she needs and send her on her way. That is pretty generous. You owe her nothing. I recently purchased a wedding gown off a secondhand wedding dress site. Full disclosure, I am not engaged, but my partner and I have discussed that we will be getting married within 2 years. I suspect he will ask next year. I had spent a lot of time on this secondhand wedding dress site helping my sister find a gown as she is getting married, and while on it, I fell in love with a custom designer gown. I am very thrifty and am trying to save as much money as possible when it comes to weddings, etc. So having something custom like that made for me is out of the question. But this dress was well within an affordable range for me. It was the find of the century, and was my exact size. I ummed and ahed for a while, as I'm not even engaged yet, but ended up buying the gown as I really loved it, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to find anything like that within my price range. I received a message tonight from the woman who sold me the gown. It read, "Hi, I'm so sorry. I forgot to take the dress off the site and received this message. Hopefully, you can help her out." In it, she had attached screenshots of a girl who had messaged her to basically say, "I am in love with this gown and I want to buy it, or hire it from the person who bought it off you. I am struggling at the moment as my father just passed away, and this is really important to me, and I really need this." With details about when she's getting married and that she'll take care and dry clean it, etc., etc. The seller has given me the girl's number so I can reach out. Thing is, I am likely not getting married until late 2023, and she needs it before then. I don't want to hire out my dress before I get to wear it, because if anything happens to it, I wouldn't be able to afford anything like it again, as it's custom. It's my Chanel suit for any Simpsons fans. I feel like if I reach out, it will just be a disappointment to her, and I hate that I'll be doing that while she's going through such a devastating time. And there's also the guilt there, as I'm not even engaged yet and bought the gown. My sister says to put myself in her shoes, and she just wants to hire it, and I'll still get to wear it, etc. And I'm starting to feel like the a-hole. Thoughts? Not the a-hole. You never have to reach out to her at all. And I wouldn't, because that gives her an avenue to try and guilt or harass you. You bought it, it's yours. If you want to tell the seller to keep your contact information private, and tell the girl you're sorry for her loss, but you are not interested, I think that's fair and exceedingly nice, as you can just not say anything at all. I've seen these stories play out before. This woman will agree to returning the dress to you after her wedding, only to get you to agree to loan it to her. Suddenly, after the wedding, she suddenly sees the dress with all sorts of sentimentality, since it was her wedding dress, and doesn't want to part with it, even if it was part of the original plan.